sound better with MTN Business.
Well, it's another beautiful Monday, the 23rd of, which month is this? This is February in the year 2026. Thank you so much for making the time to be a part of tonight's edition of Diamond Live. The year seems to be moving quite swiftly and quite fast, and we're thinking we're already in the month of August, but we're not yet there. We are still far from the month of August. This is a show that comes to your screens every Monday, Wednesdays and Fridays. We do nothing but we give you the day's biggest news stories. My name is Andrew Mwansa.
And I'm Cheswa Peter Kapasa. Thanks a lot for making time again to join us this week. It's going to be another great week.
And my name is Chimweka, Chileshe. Quite the jump-packed show we have tonight. Our guest is a former press aide for the sixth Republican president in Edgar Chagalungu, Amos Chanda. He'll be joining us tonight on the show. But, gentlemen, it's a brand new week. I don't know how true it is. It feels like it's almost August, as Andrew is saying. But I don't know where you're rushing to.
Yep.
Because it's still the month of love, actually. It's
the month of love. I don't think it's still the month of love because
it's still February.
I was watching how the
love was happening around the 14th. I mean, it's literally end of the month, Chimweka. So I agree to a large extent that it really doesn't feel like. It
doesn't feel like the month of love.
No. Maybe not, but it doesn't feel like August.
Yeah,
does it feel like August?
Certainly not August.
But which month?
But I think we're just. But I think we're just. I think we're overly excited for August.
Overly excited for August.
Yeah, generally, I think we're overly excited for August.
I wonder why.
No, I am excited for August because we will be very busy.
Okay.
We will be very busy this August. And just how the year is unfolding, I think, Andrew, you've had quite a run with some government officials the last couple of weeks, so it actually should be even overexciting for you.
No, not at all. But I think for me,
it's too early in the show.
The reason for why, I think the reason for why I said it feels like August already is because I've been following the delimitation exercise and I've been watching how the Electoral Commission of Zambia has been conducting these exercises from different parts of the country, and having to follow from start to end, it feels like we're already in the campaign period because the tensions are just so hyper by people. People are so sensitive when it comes to issues of delimitation. I was watching one today where one guy just said what he's had to tell him to say. So for me, that's the justification why it feels like, August. But guess what? We are still very far away from August, and Parliament dissolves on the 15th of May, which is in the next 57 days. And elections are on the 13th of August, which is in less than 200 days. And so time is moving fast. The Patriotic Front are having their convention on the 28th of this month. In the next few days, the country will know who the next Patriotic Front leader is. Obviously, coming from the backdrop of the fact that there's a general feeling by the Zambians that there's a gap, in the opposition because the Patriotic Front haven't chosen a substantive leader that is going to take them to the elections. And so when the PF have a convention on the 28th, probably things will begin to shape up in terms of how the opposition are going to fare.
We'll explain, Andrew, but
yeah.
I actually don't know about the August. But thank you for that very thorough and detailed explanation. I think for that to thank you, I think can I buy you gentlemen some lunch tonight?
Lunch?
Oh, sorry, supper. No, it's a genuine question.
Okay, you can buy from. You can buy me.
Cheswa?
Well, I mean, you can. It's a good gesture to have colleagues share some resources.
Because I've already carried some salt. If you need, I've got salt for each one of you.
Okay, so there won't be salt in the food we're going to eat.
Salt sana. Salt sana.
Let's begin the show off today in a snap.
From Essence.
Oh, goodness. I don't think that's the right word to say, Mr. Kapasa.
No, that's this program is of essence to, to be held.
The trending phrase the past 2 days has been what Chimweka has given us today, this evening, Sort Sana. This was what was trending on the copperbelt and part of Lusaka, because the president did drive to the copperbelt with that message of Sort Sana. For those that could have potentially missed, here's a clip of what Sort Sana looks like from President Aide.
Mulina Sort Sana. Sort Sana, Sort Sana. Sort Sana, Sort Sana. Oh, the students, Sort Sana, Sort Sana, Sort Sana, Sort Sana, Sort Sana. Thank you very much. Let me remind you, when I say one Zambia, you must answer one nation. One nation, answer.
The copperbelt was electric yesterday. Even today, Kabulonga Boys was electric with Sort Sana.
But before you get to Kabulonga Boys, did you see Levi Ngoma's reaction? Can we have that clip again? I mean, it seems like Levi Ngoma didn't know what was going on, because look at that. He says Sort Sana, and Levi Ngoma stands up. Look at that. He stands up, and it seems like he was looking at what was going on. Did you notice that? Look at that.
Well, he's shocked.
Like he was shocked at the reaction of people.
Obviously, maybe because the sort was too much. Maybe the sort was too much. Sort Sana.
Yeah, because to me it meant like it felt like, I think Levi didn't know what the reaction was going to be like there.
And many are jokingly saying this was probably Gito's idea to ensure that the president gets to say that, because obviously he's as a content creator and he gets to relate quite a lot with young people. But I mean, the events of yesterday was interesting to see a lot of young people being engaged, and the president getting to speak with them, address some of their issues, and even giving them some encouragement. We also saw that the president of the Copperbelt University Students' Union, speaking on behalf of the students he is representing, that they have pretty much endorsing the Republican President Hakainde Hichilema. But in as much as all this was happening and taking place, and we can see the commitment that President Hakainde Hichilema has had towards speaking and engaging with young people. What stands out is this are we supposed to be convinced that is this genuine? Or is this sponsored? Is this organized? Because look at that. You're seeing a number of students
for Bali.
Students, and it's not even about them being students for Bali, but those are people who are dressed in T-shirts written "Students for Bali."
There's someone that printed those T-shirts.
Somebody printed them.
Number one.
Number one, how they got there and their numbers coordinated as they were.
Well, they went in buses.
They went in buses. They had placards. And gentlemen, we've been students before. You know how our lives were as students, especially financially.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're willing to really take your own money and go and
buy a T-shirt.
Go and print a T-shirt.
You can't do that.
And make a. Look back at your days as a student.
I think let's really
And think about it. Is it something that you would do? So meaning there must have been somewhere where these resources are coming from for you to see young people get into
even if you're running for your own campaign. You didn't use your resources, Mr. Mwansa, to run for president at the University of Zambia.
Whose resources was I using?
Let's not go there.
But that's a gentleman. Andrew, you and I have been at the University of Zambia. We've had that experience before, and we know what gets to happen. And the situations at UNZA, for example, are similar to that of the Copperbelt University, and this has raised a number of questions on the authenticity of what we saw yesterday.
I think for me what I love the most is how the young people were so... President Hakainde, made the environment so friendly for the students. The mood was electric, like I said earlier on, and we are seeing that he is slowly beginning to grow that attachment, with the young people. He's adopting phrases that, are speaking to the language of young people.
Just the Bali itself, I think, was a good catch.
And I think he's been very consistent, with that. But I think Chimweka raises very serious issues here that... is this truly genuine support that the students came to offer President Hakainde? Obviously, we would not, we can't measure what genuine support looks like. But I think what is true also here is that obviously these students were coordinated properly, and by the schools themselves. This is what we're getting from NOTEC, because there's a statement from NOTEC here.
With schools, so
there are over 17 universities.
Yes, 17 learning tertiary higher learning institutions. Yes, so over 17 of them. But even I know you're making reference to NOTEC, because there was what was said to be a riot at Northern Technical College, but those clarification came through earlier today, a press briefing where the clarification that was made was that it wasn't really what people are purporting it to be, that the people rioting. And from the explanation, they say these were people who just were expecting expecting some lunch allowances, and that delayed. So there were frustrations that eventually that made it seem like it was a riot, what people are purporting to be a riot. So now what are we saying? So I mean, the school sent them to go and endorse, or what is the conclusion from this?
So the school sent them to go and support the president, the principal, Mr. Martin Kasonso. I was watching him. He says that they will continue to support President Hakainde Hichilema. They're happy with what he's doing. Even on Labor Day, they're going to send students to go and support. They sent close to 3,000 students to go and offer support to President, Hakainde.
Were they also wearing the students for Bali?
Yes.
So meaning you have a school that
has endorsed,
will send you to go and pretty much endorse a presidential candidate.
Yes, that's what is happening.
So, and now what will be interesting is, do they have the freedom and ability to do that for any other candidate that is not the ruling party president? If, for example, if they want to endorse Mr. Brian Mundwile, would they do the same thing? If they want to endorse Mr. Harry Kalaba, would they be able to do the same thing?
I think obviously they are working with one principle, that they support the government of the day.
But it's not the government here, because now this is...
they support the government of the day.
But that's been political, because it's, for example, it's the same conversation we have with people in the civil service, permanent secretaries. Mr. Tabakawana the other day was saying, well, there's a distinction between endorsing or being political about the president and supporting government policies, which is true, because you can be in support of government policies, and in fact, without you being political about it. But this has a lot of politics to do with it, because you're endorsing a presidential candidate.
In fact, President Hakainde made it very clear that he's asking all the students across the country to become his campaign managers.
So, and here's where the conversation also comes in when we talk about multi-party democracy. For a long time, student unions have had the reputation of being these fierce watchdogs, these people who keep governments on their toes, accountable. And we've seen quite a number of people who've emerged from this student union leadership. And I've served in different governments. You know, we can look at people like the spokesperson, chief government spokesperson.
You know,
I believe
Andrew Mwansa as well.
Like Andrew Mwansa, I believe even from the Ministry of Education. I believe even Mr. Douglas Siakalima as well was a part of it. But now, what we've gotten to see is student union leaders who will be speaking at government functions. For example, the vice president at the University of Zambia Students' Union, Jemima Mwaba. We saw the community engagement in Southern Province when President Chileshe was engaging with the community. She was there. She spoke there. In fact, even during this occasion, she was there on the copperbelt. So meaning she's going for this function.
Well, she's a politician.
Well,
and a student.
And that again needs to be made. Is she going in the capacity as Unzasu vice president? Is she going in a capacity as a politician? That perhaps also needs to be made clear. And I don't know if that has been made clear to number one, the rest of the public, and even just for the student population. Because sometimes, especially for students, they'll look at some of these issues. Are there issues internally being addressed, even as they get to see their leaders engage with government? Yes, President Chileshe is very, very key about engagement, rather than resorting to some of these, actions that will cause some sort of chaos.
And I think one thing that also President Aide must be very careful with is the students, because we saw the same thing happen under President Edgar Lungu. Students across the country supporting President Edgar Lungu. But just here at the University of Zambia, President Edgar Lungu, lost the elections there, which entailed that the majority of the populace there at UNZA didn't vote for him, and so he mustn't blind himself with the applause that he's receiving from students. That is what is true. Also, what is true as part of one that has experienced union politics on campus, obviously there's great fear. Chimweka says that are students allowed to also endorse other presidential candidates? There's great fear that when you allow yourself...
By the way, if you talk about there's students in themselves in their personal capacities collectively, and then the student union leaders.
That's true.
So that's what we're talking about here. We're talking about the union leaders.
Even students themselves. Even
the students, you can do it in your personal capacity. Because you're a citizen. It's like just any other citizen. But now if you're a union leader, you carry a certain position and responsibility.
Yeah, which entails that the responsibility is not just for your own personal gain. It has to, you have to imagine that you are taking care of the rest of the students.
And you're representing different kinds of people.
You can't just be
that's why Chimweka asked here that when, for example, the UNZASU vice president goes on political platforms and openly endorses President Aide, is she endorsing the president on behalf of the student populace or on her own behalf? Because when she's been introduced on stage, they introduce her as the University of Zambia vice president. And so is she carrying the endorsement as the union or
but of course,
capacity?
How do you remove her position
and which is very important? And which is very important. And I think we must begin to be very honest, with ourselves when we are having these discussions. The student unions across the country have highly been polarized, and most of them have, sorry to say this, but vuvuzelas of the government of the day, and it's not on the UPND, but even the successive governments, they've been behaving the same. And obviously, the major reason is, I want to eat something. That's why most of them, would appear to endorse the government of the day. But also, from my own experience, having been part of student politics at UNZA, one would not openly endorse the opposition. Not that because they don't believe in them, but because they are scared that they're going to be expelled from the university. All right, and this is very common
for participating in politics.
But it's okay if you support the government. It's okay if you support the ruling party. And every time there's a riot, and I'll give an example of UNZA. Every time there was a riot at UNZA, the first people that were suspected of having started that riot were UPND affiliated students. All right? Then the UPND was in opposition. So they believe, the school management believe that the only people that could cause confusion is the opposition. And so this is what, transpires in universities. And I think President Hakainde Hichilema, is aware that he can't be hoodwinked by, the numbers that came yesterday. Obviously, majority of them are not supporting him fully because they believe in his policies. Most of them is just a euphoria, of everyone is wearing Bali shit and whatnot.
He's brought back new allowances.
And not only that, we're being told people are given lunch allowances. So, and imagine you're a student.
Yes.
I mean, any buck you can make, any whatever you can. If you're going to get lunch allowances, you'll be for it. And I think at the end of the day, the biggest lesson, like you were saying again, Andrew, is the fact that when people go to vote, they make a personal decision that will remain with them, or maybe whoever they decide to tell, if they decide to tell. So people can take money, but the decision they get to make will be their personal secret. But I guess it also exposes a bit of the intolerance that has been in existence, or that number of people have complained about to be in existence, whether it's from the current regime, from the previous regime. Under the previous regime, we're going to see how the school literally was closed indefinitely, right? Because of some of these actions that students would take. So maybe there's also fear from students generally that if we decide to rise against, or if we decide to make a stance publicly of national interest, we'll just have ourselves to blame. We'll be closed down, and we don't know when next to be open, like it happened under the previous regime. So maybe you find that people still feel the same way now, that because before, and you can probably agree to this, Andrew, there's certain people who, if they even try to stand or contest, if they're believed to be in any books with, especially the ruling party, sometimes people would lose. They would lose the candidacy because of that. You have the general population, student population, feeling this person is a betrayer. We cannot trust them, so we cannot vote for them. But it seems things have changed now, where I think you still have people who don't mind. Or maybe you just have people who are indifferent. Maybe the current student population is just indifferent towards national politics, that you can have your union leaders be a part of this and that, and it's no big deal for you as long as you're able to get to school, do what you can, and get your degree, you're out.
I know we're getting to the former press aide just now, but I can tell you, whatever candidate, a presidential candidate, is going against President Hichilema must be as likable as he is. I think the president has really portrayed a very humorous. He's really positioned himself as someone who the young people can relate with, and I think that his team seems to be doing quite the job. I mean, you could see how people are have lost it out of the Sot Sana slogan and so on. And I can tell you, I mean, you probably both have met. I mean, I met the President Hichilema in Cape Town. I can tell you the level of. I think he's a very likable candidate this August, and it has to take. If Brian Mundubile is among the candidates, you're talking Harry Kalaba. They have to take the approach that young people can indeed relate. And they can reach him out. They can reach out. I mean, look at what happened at the feeding program. He literally had to tell his security to move aside.
And he's done it a number of times.
He's done that a number of times. So it seems to me that he takes the strategy of he wants to break this protocol around security and all of that.
And we even got to see earlier today, I was seeing a press statement by the Copperbelt Youth Deputy Chairman, Sakangwa Kamando, just commending the president for that, his inclusion with the young people, him getting to, even just the school feeding program he spoke about from earlier today, and how this generally speaks into him supporting the young people. But even from the candidates, we've seen people like Sari Kalava, he started the whole Uncle Harry's slogan.
Yeah. Do you think it's funny, Cheswa?
We saw, but I think Mr. Brandman will as a big something like that. I think
but you see,
I think people are trying to catch on as well.
Yeah, but you know, with not to say that other candidates will not have a strategy ahead of the election, but it seems to me that President Hichilema is already unfolding his strategy very, very quickly, and he seems to be getting on to the ground with the students already.
And you seem to like it a lot.
Well, not that I am endorsing endorsing or not that I love what he's trying to do. I just think that he's.
Should we expect you to Bali?
No. You don't expect. You don't expect
for Bali.
You don't expect me to endorse, or you don't expect me to tell you that he is the person you should vote for. I just feel that he started his strategy in a much effective note, and the other opposition leaders need to run as fast as he is.
Is there a media for Bali as well? Maybe you can find these things there.
Well,
gentlemen, we need to have a conversation with Mr. Amos Chanda. He's former press aide. He joins us right after this.
Iwe, ngeke ibeva mkashana kaboyo kubuturuke efikwatini tute. Make up. Now Ishiva, inedionsenga ndea kuchalonda making sure it's ninchita moisturize skin nimpopoka. Mbomfia Romeo glycerin. Ukupopoka chani.
Action!
Romeo for naturally pure, radiant skin.
Welcome to an electrifying new epic of agricultural shopping. Nestled in the bustling Lusaka showgrounds, the Nemchem Agri Division is more than just a store. It's the lighthouse of advancement, searching for top-notch biosecurity, cleaning and pest control solutions. Attention! Local businesses, your quest ends here. Get ready for a thrilling journey in agricultural retail. The future begins at Nemchem Agri Division, your supermarket for superior quality. The revolution of agricultural shopping starts now. It's about empowering your business and nurturing your community. Call us today or visit our shop at the Lusaka Showgrounds.
5 kwacha. 5 kwacha. Go 99.
How much for a plate?
Everything is better with bento. Bento noodles, full of unique flavor.
Meet Lucy, a dedicated professional. Her days are filled with meetings and deadlines. But there is one thing on her mind: getting motor insurance for her brand new car.
But I need to get my insurance done though.
As Lucy begins her car journey, excitement fills the air. But she knows there is something crucial missing: safety and protection. The fear of being pulled over by traffic police looms over Lucy. She dreads the complicated and time-consuming process of getting insurance. Will she find a solution? Enters MGen on my WhatsApp. Just a chat away, this service transforms the way you buy motor insurance. It's not just efficient, it's also extremely convenient. With MGen on my WhatsApp, Lucy can now focus on what truly matters: her journey, her ambition. Insurance simplified. Text HI to MGen on my WhatsApp to easily buy, renew, or validate your insurance. When it's worth it, it's worth talking about.
As 1, 2, 3, and all my clothes are squeaky clean.
Quick to remove the dirt and stains and the fresh fragrance remains.
Never seen nothing like it. That's exactly why I like it.
So whether color white or black, it brings a new right back.
Pascal's showing his boss the efficient new technology they've installed. She is pleased, but now she's asking, why is that still there? Pascal explains that the wells can store many, many messages. The boss is not so pleased anymore. If you haven't upgraded your contact center yet, it's time to get business done better with MTN Business.
To know where we're going, we must remember where we're coming from. Boom. Never forget home.
President Hakainde Hichilema received a thunderous welcome from students drawn from various learning institutions during his latest visit to the Copperbelt, marking a sharp contrast to his previous trip to the region when unruly individuals disrupted his engagements by throwing stones at him. The atmosphere this time was notably different, with enthusiastic crowds of learners turning out to cheer the head of state, reflecting what observers describe as a shift in public mood, particularly among young people. The visit has drawn further attention because it comes just days after President Hakainde Hichilema addressed Parliament on the progress made in the application of national values and principles. Meanwhile, the President also officiated the implementation of school feeding program earlier today at the Kablonga Boys Secondary School. On tonight's edition of Diamond Live, we discuss these developments that have happened in the country the past few days. Our guest is former presidential press aide, Mr. Amos Chanda. Mr. Chanda, good evening. Thank you so much for making the time to be a part of tonight's edition of Diamond Live.
Thank you, gentlemen. Good evening.
The last time President HH was on the Copperbelt, events didn't turn out to be quite well. Do you view this latest trip as a form of redemption following what happened previously on the Copperbelt?
Yes, it's a form of redemption and also a product of genuine engagement, a mixture of far-reaching policy reforms in the education sector, and also a genuine commitment to a transformational agenda that President HH has put in place. A robust investment in the education sector is one of the cornerstones of the major policy reforms across various sectors, be they in mining, manufacturing. But I think that the biggest policy reform we can talk about between 2021 and now is in the education sector, where remarkable investments have been made in terms of human resource recruitment. I think in the neighborhood of 41,000 teachers recruited, 900 schools built, and a groundbreaking policy change meant to keep children in school. It's a dual strategy to improve nutrition and also keep learners in school. 4.5 million pupils are targeted to benefit from the school feeding program, which the President launched today. There cannot be any social sector reform program you can talk about, or social sector investment greater than an investment in education, and exactly where it matters. You've got to have health, well-fed children, and also keeping them in school, and that's the biggest outcome of this, is that you keep children in school and they are well fed. And also this is social justice, because you are getting national resources to trickle down where it matters. Then you are building a future of an educated population, because the dropout rate will reduce, the quality of education will increase, and also it tells you that you have a government that really focuses on what really matters, the future of this country.
You say what the events from the copperbelt. I know we're narrowing down to the school feeding program soon, with the president being here in Lusaka, but still in the copperbelt, you say it's some sort of redemption, whereas others see the whole occasion as just being stage managed. You've handled the public relations of a sitting president, and you know what tends to go on at some of these events. Wasn't that a clear case of that? Yesterday, seeing students showing up in T-shirts, placards, they went in buses. Isn't that a big sign of a stage-managed event?
No, there was no pretense. When students offered that they would turn up and that they want to be uniform, to show support to the president, there was no point in pretending that yes, they came abruptly. They showed support that the president was coming to the copperbelt. They engaged with the relevant officers in State House, led by a special assistant for politics. And some organization, some sort of organization was to be made, because it's not in Kitwe alone where those students were coming from. They were students that were to come from NOTEC. It will be an imposition.
Lunch allowances, by the way.
Yes, the principal has confirmed that they were given lunch allowance. It's not unusual, but there was a groundswell of support, organic, germinated from the students themselves. I speak to student leaders myself. I know that was organic. And then the organic display then has to be organized. Yeah.
In an event that probably lunch allowance wasn't provided for these students, do you think President Hakainde Hichilema would have pulled an organic crowd?
He would have, but what is so controversial about the lunch allowances, as long as those allowances were not raised from illicit means, there's no problem about that.
But they act as an inducement for them to...
That the people have to be incentivized to show their support.
There are a lot of developments, whether sometimes in the church, sometimes among youth groups, sometimes among football supporters, where the centrally organized authority feels a need. Particularly, these are disadvantaged people. They are not in formal employment. They are in school, and therefore some form of transport and feeding was provided to them. But if you take away that and try and stage that event again, you will see that those people will turn up. There's been an investment. There's been a remarkable change in the welfare of students, that the meal allowances are back, the bursaries has been increased and spread. So there's got to be a reaction, whether there is a 50 kwacha lunch allowance or not. Those people have gotten, for instance, sponsorship for 4-year degree program under bursaries. What reaction do you expect out of people like that?
Don't you think this raises eyebrows? Because now you have a school that confirms that they were giving lunch allowances, incentives to these students who made it for this particular event. And secondly, you say you also engage with these different student leaders and so on. Looking at where we're coming from as a country, historically you can agree that student unions have been the voices that will be able to keep governments in check, keep them on their toes. And this has not been a common trend, where you see student union leaders engaging with the government of the day to this particular level, and even going as far as endorsing a presidential candidate. Don't you think this raises further eyebrows as to what could be going on?
Within the student union board, if there are alternative voices that think that the amount of resources that are being committed to every known University of Zambia, Nkuruma, and other private colleges, that the reinstatement of bursaries is a bad thing, they can pronounce an alternative view that they don't like a president who has retained bursaries. If there are students who think that the extension of these bursaries from CBU and University of Zambia to extend to private universities, that is a bad thing. Within that student body, there must be a pronouncement that they would rather endorse a presidential candidate who says they will remove student meal allowance.
Should they even be endorsing, especially for the student union leaders?
Yes, it's a democracy. They can. And within the student body, if there is an alternative view, they can also offer an alternative view and endorse a different
So you don't think that they need to be apolitical, that they need to have a neutral
student politics is intertwined with national politics. I don't see a problem, as long as that there is no disadvantage against those who don't endorse.
From your heart of hearts, do you see genuine love by the students to President Hakainde Hichilema?
I think so. It's remarkable what has happened. If you've not been through the process and see the difference, yes, it looks peripheral, but what has happened within universities is remarkable. Can you tell me that for instance, let's go to grade 8, and the person who was having maybe 1 meal or no meal at all, and they go into school at 7 hours and knock off 16 or 17 hours without a meal. When this person stays in Kablonga Boys from grade 8 up to grade 12, and they have attained these extraordinary 4 years without the problem of having to think about lunch, and they've gotten 6 points and they go to the University of Zambia, do you think these people will be saying that Hakainde ni oipa? No, you say
the trip by President Hakainde Hichilema to the copperbelt was very peculiar, like I said in my introduction, because the last time he was at the copperbelt, things didn't turn out to be so good. I'd like to find out from you whether you think, the UPND generally is popular on the copperbelt.
There is a problem of transformation of the mindset. There's been a vigorous intervention to organize the mining sector. All those large portions of ungoverned space where illegal miners, where you go into a licensed area, bump off the licensed area and you are tolerated because you are pro a ruling party, the owners of the licenses can be invaded. There is restoration of order, which is not going very well with established gangsters. So that is never going to be popular with certain groups. So, but the government that knows that the only way mining sector, any businesses, whether it's a market store, is when there is a restoration of law and order. That government will stay focused. The president made an announcement that he will be returning to Chingola, particularly to go and look at the people whose market stores were programmed. These are the small businesses that must be protected. The duty of a president in any country should be just protecting life and property.
So you agree that some of these rigorous decisions you're making are making the president unpopular, like fixing the mining sector?
Yes, when he insists that there should be no lawlessness in the mining sector, he will be unpopular among the gangsters. But that does not mean that a well-meaning president must retreat and succumb to the lawlessness and blackmail of lawbreakers.
Do you think this will cost you a vote in the August elections?
The moral majority will see that in the final analysis, I think that an organized mining sector is more useful, even at the expense of political consequences. I think an organized mining sector where people's license areas are respected, where companies where small businesses are protected, you cannot govern.
Again, I ask, do you think this will result into a negative political consequence for you as you?
In some pockets of lawlessness, yes. But I think the moral majority will see the good that is in the overall policy of organized. I think that there is a difference in certain areas, if I must take you into confidence, that even before the authorities, the military, move to further enforce the mining regulations and law and order in Mpika. It's much more organized than it is in Chingola. It's much more organized than Mufumbu. That is the kind of order that the government wants. That even when people are aspiring for artisan mining, like I said, there must be basic minimum standards. That does not interfere with the environment. That does not interfere with farming communities, poisoning the environment and all that. So the importance of sticking to law and order is non-negotiable.
Still on the copperbelt, one of the things that President Hakainde Hichilema has consistently mentioned is that the copperbelt is back to life.
Yes.
Break it down to us on how government has brought back the copperbelt to life.
Yes, the mining companies that were frozen through court actions, litigations, unresolved commercial differences, none of the mining companies is in court. Because any business that is in court operates with uncertainty. There are challenges with the investment. The full amount that Vedanta promised they will put in there, but there is a settlement between the Zambian government and the investors, and the mine is in private hands. CEC used to collect their money through court orders. When they supply electricity to Mopani, KCM, they've got to go with the force of the courts. You cannot run a government using courtrooms. The procedures, the strictures of the court process is not just good for business. The mines are in operation. We have Mingomba, the mine is a new one. Lubambe mine is back many years after it was closed. You have mines, Kitumba in Mumbwa, which is an extension of the copperbelt. You have the Kalengwa mines being closed for 8 years. The mining industry, and you have an explosion of small artisan miners across the country, in Pika, Petauke, Central Province. So the mining sector, which is a backbone, if you so wish, the family silver, is providing the heartbeat of the Zambian economy. So yes, the mining sector is back.
Even when we talk about issues around the mining sector, like you've mentioned, and some of the reforms that we've seen over there, we speak of all this progress that obviously the president, with his line minister himself, Mr. Paul Kabuswe. But when we look at it from the national perspective, do we also see this trickling down to what could happen in August 2026? Because we know that this is a very, very sensitive ministry, and like you've highlighted, you will have pockets of individuals or certain groups of people who feel frustrated about maybe things not working out in their favor, or for whatever reasons. But do you think this would be a strong position enough to convince people for President Hakainde Hichilema?
There has been an enactment and fully implementation to make the Minerals Regulations Commission is fully operational to smoothen operations in the mining sector. There has been an amendment to the Geological Act to ensure that the whole country is aligned properly with best practices globally in terms of geology and mapping. So the net effect and the confidence of the global mining industry that they have in the country now is greater than at any particular time. Maybe if you go back to the Anglo-American days, this is the only comparison. There's predictable tax regime. There's constructive dialogue between government and the mining companies wherever there are problems, and there are no court actions against each other, which characterized the mining industry for a long time in the past.
The reason why I asked that is, there's been this very common assertion that, yes, we have mining activities taking place here, but the people who are benefiting the most are not from this particular, are not from Zambia, where these resources are coming from. And this is seemingly a major concern that commonly arises from a number of people. So what's your comment on that?
That's how the mining sector operates. Like any other business, the greatest beneficiaries to any business are the shareholders, the ones who own that. So there will be a structural change when the existing mining sector, mining players, stabilize and inject confidence. Then you can progressively increase the stake in terms of ownership by Zambians. As it is now, it would be irresponsible for the Zambian government to step in and move towards nationalization under the gaze of making Zambian a benefit in there. Nothing stops, for instance, any Zambian from buying a stake in ZCCMIH, which has a stake in some of those mining companies. My view and the view of government, I think, is that there will be a progressive increase of the stake that Zambian people must have in the mining industry. The 400, 600 artisan miners that have been trained and given licenses are all Zambians. So that's how progressive policies should be. There must be no cohesion through a command economy type as we saw in the period immediate after independence. When the state overplays its hand in the mining sector, like in any other business, growth stalls because business operate different from government. So the private sector must be a driving force in business. There must be little room for government interventions. You must have smaller government and larger private sector in terms of driving growth.
Well, in the background, we're seeing the pictures of President Hakainde Hichilema earlier on today at Kablonga Boys, and obviously this is something we've already touched on briefly. But I think we'd like to go back, to it because this, seems to be the biggest campaign, message of the UPND, free education and free food, in public, schools. How important is this initiative by government to ensure that learners are given a meal at school?
It's phenomenally important. I'll go back to the figures I gave you. The overall objective is to get 4.5 million learners under the school feeding program. Even if you don't look at it just in the context of pupils, if you take that 4.5 million out of the 20 million overall population, that's a significant cut in the number of people who go hungry every day. 4.5 million are fed through the school program. That is an extraordinary figure towards poverty reduction, because those people will never go hungry because some money has been dedicated. For as long as you are in school, you are catered for 4.5 million.
So this is from grade 1 to grade 12?
Yes, under the school feeding program. Yes.
How is government...
2.3 of those are already on the program, by the way.
How is government sustaining this program? And how sustainable is it that every day you need to feed millions of learners?
The beauty about living in a democracy, and gentlemen, don't take for granted what democracy delivers to its citizens, is that this money is not being stolen from anywhere. The Minister Msogotwane announced a significant increase in social spending. This is money from a social spending that was approved through Parliament, and there was no dissenting view from. There was a bipartisan agreement that in the social sector you need to. That's how a poor economy operates. There has to be positive discrimination. Money must be moved deliberately from the haves to the have-nots. If the have-nots are actually learners who are going to be empowered so that they can stay in school and become better citizens, that is positive discrimination. That the government is Robin Hood, if you like. I'm using the term loosely, robbing the rich and giving the poor. So by deliberately moving away this money from other leakage points, wastage, into school feeding program, that is significant. So this money is from the budget.
But just on that, still, because when we talk about social spending, I think the issue of sustainability still comes in, because in the past we've also seen some of these social programs that have not exactly been sustained. They either take a break, or there are certain challenges where, because of delayed payments, they are just not working, they're just not happening. What's your take on the issue of sustainability?
And I think President HH is aware that maybe at the back of his mind he thinks that just for political expedience somebody may come and stop it. He's moving progressively to ensure that the free education policy, which encompasses the school feeding program, will be enacted into law so that you can't change it. How will it not be sustainable if ZRA is still there? If ZRA increases the tax collection and a certain percentage and backed up by the enactment which will come, why would you run out of money to feed and you don't run out of money, for instance, for wastage?
For example, especially just after the drought that we experienced as a country, we got to see that there were certain initiatives that came to be, for example, the Cash for Work program.
Yes.
There was Food for Work, there was Cash for Work, and then it all culminated into it just being Cash for Work. But we even saw this getting suspended at some point.
Yes.
And it just had to be lifted quite recently. But this is an example of something that was started, but it was not being sustained. It had to be suspended.
That's pragmatic.
And people can look at that as an example. And the concern could be this could be applied into other forms of social spending, don't you think?
That will be extremely disruptive, and I do not see any sensible government that will temper with a program that's sensitive. Of course, it once you introduce it, because schools don't have, it's like a newspaper. You can't come and say, today we did not have news, so we'll give you a blank space. When the school calendar has begun, it runs until the exam period, and until I don't think that the government as responsible as this one would temper with a matter that critical. If you've got to suspend ministerial travel abroad, that will be done in order for the school program not to be disrupted. If you've got to cut spending in other areas, that will be done. I think this is as important as FISIP, where maybe you can remove 2 bags because the people working in the fields are adults. They will have to find other means. But I don't think that the importance of the school feeding program can be tempered within the manner that, cash for work, yes, government does not owe everyone, a person a living. It does in the loose sense of the word, but when you go through school, grade 12 and other, it is expected that you must find employment. But that cash for work, those are social safety nets. We are not such a developed economy that we expect everyone to fend for themselves. Yeah, if the cash for work is, say, 10 billion kwacha and there's a shortage of cash, maybe it can be cut to 6 billion so that the other money remains. Yeah, I think it's a question of priorities. From where I stand, from what I know, and from the commitment that President HH has over this program, I think that if there is one last point to cut spending, it will be in this free education program, and now encompassing the school fee. It is extremely important. Maybe it sounds so strange that it's government intervention. It does not align with a free market economy that we are. I lived in England and I know exactly what a school feeding program does. You know that even as liberal and free market society that the UK is, that the school feeding program in the United Kingdom is so robust and responsible for the high literacy rates that's there, because every child stays in school and the nutritional levels are very high. So this is what some of those programs are. It is not about ideological inclination here, it's pragmatic intervention. I have just given you an example of the United Kingdom, which ordinarily you would not think that they would put money into free spending. The NHS is the largest, second only to the Chinese army. It's the second largest single employer. That's free medical services that are given to the majority of the citizens.
I'd like to find out something from you, and I'd like to take advantage of your presence here.
Yes.
You've served the presidency before. You understand the mind of a president.
Yes.
And you've been privileged to understand why a president would make certain decisions,
yes,
especially when it comes to hiring and firing. Yes. We saw a few days ago President Hakainde Hichilema let go of his 2 ministers, Minister Amos Chanda and Minister Muchima. Now, this is an election year and there's less than 100 days to go before Parliament dissolves.
Yes.
What would trigger a president to let go of his ministers in less than 100 days to go before Parliament gets to dissolve and in less than 200 days before an election? What exactly would trigger the president to make such a drastic decision?
it means that even if it's 2 days remaining, as long as those people are members of cabinet, then they would have access to very sensitive information. And therefore, if they can be let go, then that means the president does not want them to have access to this kind of... Why would he make a decision like that? A decision like that, with a few days remaining, as you are saying, suggests that they can't stay in cabinet even 1 day longer, meaning that their positions are untenable. Their mistakes, their omissions or commissions would be so fundamental that they wouldn't stay. If, for instance, the issue was to just ignore them and let time lapse and then they go, maybe it would be on minor things. If, for instance, it comes to pass and it's confirmed now, I think the Secretariat has confirmed that it is over Bill 7, a constitutional motion, the Minister of Justice arriving in Parliament as I'm a bearer of the message from the President on this very important motion, which is a 2/3 motion, meaning 1 vote is essential, is critical for the success of FERI. So if a serving minister would not be aligned on a matter as fundamental as that, then that minister is unfit to be in cabinet.
Well, you say unfit to be in cabinet. Where also does the issue of the issue of different serving members of parliament or even ministers having
a mind of their
own, and especially that some of these ministers, majority of the ministers, were elected.
Yeah.
And people voted for them in their constituency. So meaning they also have an obligation to the people that they represent in their constituency, in as much as, yes, they get appointed by a president. So doesn't that also show some sort of, if that was the case, doesn't that show some sort of intolerance by head of state?
No, that's not intolerance. There will be chaos in government, and government wouldn't function if you simplify independence, so-called independence of mind of ministers like that. There is a principle called collective responsibility, and nowhere does this principle apply than in cabinet, because the constitutional bill would have been debated by cabinet, where these ministers are a part, and they will have approved and voted where sometimes it gets to the vote, but usually it's by consensus, ministers under the chairmanship of the president, and then the president tells his ministers, state of them, how important it is. He will have the basis. This is where we stand. For us to govern in this manner, for us to achieve this manifesto objective, for us to win the next election, we need the following reforms. And the constitutional bill goes to cabinet before it goes anywhere. And these ministers, under the principle of collective responsibility, agree. And then if there is one number the president is sure of, is that if you take away himself, then that's 29. I think cabinet now is registered as the president plus 29, the vice president. He's sure of is those 29, because these are members of cabinet, the executive that proposes the law. Do you know that the budget is a constitutional bill? Can you imagine the Minister of Finance going there and voting, and then you are saying he's exercising his independence?
Okay, but I mean, that's the I think the main speculation that has been there.
And I'm basing this because Deputy Secretary General Imenda has confirmed. That's why I'm saying this.
Oh, yes. So it's been confirmed?
Yes, she spoke.
Okay.
That the ministers and other MPs who said that they were too busy, or let them go and attend to their business, the Bill 7 was too small for them. That's why I speak like this. So if that is the reason, then no president will tolerate a minister who goes against a bill, or any bill for that matter, who still, if it's a constitutional bill.
And it warrants instant dismissal, that you cannot wait until...
No, you can't wait, because if you, as a minister, your views about that bill, your opposition to that is so fundamental that it is irreconcilable with your position. The resignation rather than a dismissal
I know you said that the Deputy Secretary General commented on this, but generally how things have been is that the presidents rarely make that announcement. Sometimes they'll make innuendos that will make people conclude that this is why they've dismissed or relieved a certain minister or an appointee of their duties. But do you think the president, we should have presidents announcing why? Especially for people who've served in these senior positions, that the public deserves to know why, from either the president or secretary to the cabinet, why they've been relieved of their duties.
No, it's a prerogative of the president. Sometimes the president says it, sometimes...
But should we make it a must? Do you think it needs to be a must?
No, it shouldn't. It will tie the hands of the president. Because if you do that, then it presupposes that he must tell you the reason why he's hiring you in the first place. I'm hiring you because of this and this, then I'm firing you because of this and that. To grow our democracy, in fact, if you have to go back to what you were saying, that intolerance or advancement of free expression, if you are in the front bench and you express your view so strongly that you cannot vote for a constitutional bill, you must express it and inform the president that I will remain in the back bench. I cannot be in the front bench. Therefore, I'm tendering my resignation because I can't. If it is so strong that you can't even stay in the party, you can also even resign. Because at a certain level of responsibility and trust, any presidents, I cannot see any presidents anywhere in the world where a matter as important as that would be tolerated. Because then what would mean that the president can, if he can't govern 30 people who are appointed under his prerogative, then he cannot manage parliament. Then eventually he cannot manage the country because it's got to be order. Government is a much more organized institution than the freedom of expression you are talking about. If that freedom of expression and independence of mind is allowed to rule collective responsibility, then there will be no president because everyone will decide what they do.
In conclusion, we have less than 200 days to go before Zambia goes to the polls. What are you seeing through your lenses, Mr. Amos Chanda?
An increasingly disorganized opposition, as it has been. I think when I was last year to talk about this matter, maybe 6-7 months, I have not seen any change. I cannot see any real contender to stand up to President HH. Therefore, I can clearly see a clear path to victory by President HH. I can't see an alternative view to the policies of free education. I cannot see an alternative view clearly that can crystallize public support against him by this alternative. I can't see. I cannot see any alternative view about the reforms in the mining sector, education, manufacturing. I can see alliances that are completely sandwiched. The opposition is alliances without a leader. Clearly, you have the main opposition, the PF. 3 branches of the PF, first of all. It breaks in 2 branches of Tonse alliances. Tonse means one, but we have 2 Tonses. This massive confusion, we pack it on the other side. You've got the People's Pact under Mr. Fred Membe, several different ones. You've got to acknowledge some remarkable organization under Citizens First, but that is too small to mount a challenge on the president. You can see a well-organized neighbor here, Kelvin, for Warriors Party, but that is too small. So, taken in totality, I cannot see a real match in the next 200 days.
So you're going into August 1-0.
Yes, it's
down.
Yes, well-organized, a united party, a clear manifesto, clear policy alternatives, social deliveries, education reforms. God has given us a good rain season. I think I can see a bumper harvest, the mining sector stabilizing, government revenue going up, the exchange rate improving and stabilizing, the inflation going down. clearly those are green shoots ahead of a very contested election, but you can clearly see the front runner.
Well, that is the perspective of Mr. Amos Chanda, former presidential press aide. He was our guest on tonight's edition of Diamond Live. Thank you so much for being a part of it. On behalf of our co-host, Cheswa Kapasa, my name is Andrew Mwansa.
My name is Chimweka, Chileshe. Enjoy the rest of your night. Stay tuned to Diamond TV. Up next is the Stephen Piri Show.
Today, start big with Victory Cornflakes. Victory Cornflakes.